Commercial Construction Coffee Talk fans, thanks for chiming in. My name's David Corson. I'm your host. I'm also the publisher and editor of Commercial Construction Renovation magazine. That's what it looks like. Thanks for finding us on the web. Tell you, spring's here. I'm in the ATL today, and it's almost 70 degrees, not a cloud in the sky, and just absolutely beautiful out. A little breeze, and pollen's coming in April and May, but beautiful day today. I mean, it's actually spring-like. I mean, we had a little rain, a little cold there, but it's unbelievable out. So hopefully the sun will come beaming in on me here. Anyway, thanks for finding us on the web, as I said. And, it's hump day today, in the week. Got another lacrosse game coming up for University of Denver. I know I talk lacrosse. It's lacrosse season. So we took it on the chin from Jacksonville, which has an awesome team. They're ranked number 9 in the country. They went in and beat us and then beat Air Force. We went 1-1 last weekend. But I'll tell you, lacrosse is, unbelievable. College lacrosse. You could beat any of those top 20 teams can beat any other team on any given day. It's a game of runs and momentum. And I think they lost 13-11. But it was, I think we're ranked number 18 now. I was surprised we're actually in the top 20. But, I'm tight with the coaching staff out there with Coach Tierney and Coach Brown. And, I send emails and, and give them my feedback, and not that they care, but, I'm alumni. Anyway, you can't win them all. And hopefully they regrouped on Sunday, and they have Yale coming in this weekend, and the schedule's just brutal. So our hockey team, number 3 in the country, they're still hanging in there. And so go Pios. That's all I can say. So I'm not wearing my colors today because it's not the weekend yet, but sure enough, on Saturday, I'll be watching at the TV, and once again, my wife's going to say, they can't hear you. So with that said, got a very cool guest from one of the best kept secrets in the South, Charleston, South Carolina, Mr. Dan DiOrio. He's the construction operations manager for KCon Construction. Dan, say hello to our audience out there on the web.
Hello, audience. Thanks for your time, Dave.
Hey, well, we appreciate you finding your time. And Dan's already had a really busy day. Was at an outside meeting all day, and made his way back. And but he could probably tell you the weather's probably beautiful in Charleston right now. Am I right?
Just about 80 and sunny.
Yeah, and no humidity, so beautiful.
Not yet.
Not yet. Yeah, that's what I always tell people. Like, hey, April, May, June, and right about in the middle of June, God just flips the humidity switch on, and in Atlanta, and it's just brutal. But you got the water there, so you got the breeze coming off the coast, but it's still hot. So enjoy the weather in Charleston while you can. I know my son's there too, so he's like, oh yeah, I think it's gonna be 80 this weekend. I'm gonna go jet skiing. So, but the reason why we had Dan on, his company, contractor, and diversifying in different sectors and so forth. And with construction going on, the start of the year, a lot of projects would come in. Now the mandates are kind of getting rectified across the country, and ease of the way that the projects go on. And we always like talking to the contractors because, listen, they're like the captains of the ship. They get the things done. They're dealing with not only the people that they're building for, but also the people that are getting the building done. And they're the captain of the ship, and it gives us a good vibe of what's going on, in the sector, in the country in general. And and Dan is a construction manager and an operations manager. He's got a good feel of, the sense of, where the industry is going. So Dan, the way that works is, I know I've told you, but you got to tell us your story, your saga, where you grew up, got brothers, sisters, you played any, athletics or sports, kids, married, where you went to college, and if you went or whatever, tech school, how you ended up at KCon, and then we'll go from there. So the floor is yours. Tell us your story, Dan.
Sounds great. Well, I was born in a small town in Ohio, Northeast Ohio, where everything football is all that matters.
Oh yeah.
So of course, grew up playing football and working on a farm. in once again, a very small town of about 4,000. So my first foray into construction was working on a farm, baling hay, building fences, every bit of hard labor as you can imagine when I was 15. From there, I advanced. By the time I got to 19, I had gone to college to play football.
Where'd you play?
I played at Division II school in Edinburgh, Pennsylvania. I just played there for 1 year. Then I started into construction full time. Took a year
looked
off.
a little early there. Were you back? Were you a linebacker? What were you? Line?
Offensive line in college.
There you go.
So,
See, I knew you were in there, man. You know.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it, but at some point it's time to get on with your life and be an adult. So I went and got a job. So I poured concrete, worked as a masonry laborer. I worked for a demolition crew, asbestos removal, 10 years off and on of hard labor, coinciding with 10 years off and on of college. So 10 years after I graduated high school, I graduated college. I got an engineering degree from Youngstown State University. And then at that time, kind of started my real career in construction, in the management portion of it. Mm-hmm. So lived in Ohio, lived in Cleveland for about a dozen years, worked for different general contractors. And then when I turned 40, my wife and I and our two small children decided it was time for a change. And we moved south, as did a whole lot of people.
Oh, yeah.
And Charleston was our landing point. I had several friends that lived all over the South. So I visited Wilmington and Charlotte and Charleston, Hickory, Atlanta. We did the world tour, and the nicest place, in our opinion, was Charleston.
Oh, yeah.
So we packed everything up, no jobs, sold our house in Cleveland and came here, and that's where I first found KCon. So I started working here 15 years ago.
Nice. Well, you and I have, there's some synergies between us because my wife's from Canton. And
okay.
My brother-in-law played at Mount Union, and he coaches up there, the wide receivers. And I have gone to a couple of Hall of Fame dinners and stuff, over the years. And but
nice.
I think they were either at Hoover or I forget what the other high school. But football's king. So when you said football, northeast Ohio, I'm like, okay, he's probably either Canton, Cleveland, somewhere in there. And young Silent State powerhouse school. They have good football, and so listen, that's pretty cool, man. That you were a lineman for Youngstown. So, and then you said you did asbestos. My family's in construction, and when everybody got their driver's license, I grew up outside of Philly in Pottstown. Our company, my family's companies, have been in recycling demolition since 1888. Still in business today. And anyway,
wow.
But when I turned 16, I was introduced to asbestos. We were knocking down this billy off I-95 outside. Well, it was a huge complex, but we were knocking down all the asbestos off the pipes before we went in and demolished the building. And and it's hot in Philly in the summer. I mean, just kind of like Atlanta, hot and humid. And I got the white suit on, and I've got the goggles, and I was the hose guy, dusting, making sure all the asbestos would stay down. Anyway, they had this crew of guys that came in, and they're not wearing their mask. I'm like, dudes, aren't you gonna wear that mask? Oh, I don't wear that sneaking mask. The lungs coming out. I'm like, oh my God, And so I got my mask on, I got my gloves, and so I when you said asbestos, I was like, oh God, do I remember those days? And so
yeah, to this day, that's the hardest job, physically hardest job I've ever had. I mean, it was. And I did it in Ohio in the winter. So in the winter, you can't wear clothes in there. You just wear a paper suit.
Yeah.
So, you froze in the winter, and then in the summer it was 100+ degrees, and on top of very physical labor. I mean, it was.
Oh no! I mean, listen, I was, when I did that, I was on that project probably for a good month, and first of all, I had to get up at 4:30 in the morning, make it in there. And my cousin, two of my cousins were all born in June. So we all would meet, and then we drive in with the super and one of the PMs, and we go to this project site right off the highway. And first thing they did, they're like, okay, guys, put the suits on. You're going to learn about asbestos. And there we went, you know. And I come home, my grandfather, well, so what'd you do today? I'm like, I was the hose man. You know, oh yeah, I was taking the axe, getting rid of the stuff, you know. I mean, but, you know, these big chunks of stuff coming up the pipes, you know. We had to get rid of the whole building. The building couldn't be knocked down until you got rid of it all, because it would all, the steel and stuff that we were going to recycle would all be contaminated. So so that brought back memories. I have flashbacks of the white suit, you know, just like you said. And then when you take it off the end of the day, you know, then you got to get in the shower because of OSHA and get everything washed off you. Oh, yeah. And, good times. Oh man, that was like, that makes me just laugh. So
that ice cold shower in the wintertime was a lot of fun.
Oh yeah. For those of you who don't know, listen, OSHA was been around for a long time. So even when I was in the scrapyard, every day you had to go in and watch it, you know, take a shower before you left the facility, and you got to get all the lead off you, so I can, you know, it's in the summer you're like, oh, it's just a paper thin suit, but you know, you're sitting up there, you're all zipped up, you know, and kind of clogged in there, and in the winter I'm sure it was freaking cold because those suits are not thick, you know. So so I give you credit because I was right there with you, brother, you know.
But, you know, those were great days. I still think you know, no matter how difficult a day I might have sitting behind a desk, I'm not doing that. So, you know, I can still pull from those experiences of, you know, I've come a long ways, but, you know, getting through college and you know, still working hard in my first engineering job and all that was just, you know, all working to where I am now. But I can always think back and, hey, it could always be worse, because it was.
I used to always tell my son, I'm like, I shoveled asbestos. He tills bring, you know, I knocked down stuff, you know, you don't know what it was like. And, you know, now he's older and he still's like, Dad, not with the asbestos story again, please, you know. And, I'm like, oh yeah. So, but good times, like I said, good memories.
Yeah.
So,
but I worked as a design engineer for about 5 years after college. And at that time I was behind a desk all day, every day. And I thought, you know, maybe I miss, you know, the labor part of it. Getting out of the office once in a while. And that's how I got out of the design part and got into the project management and commercial construction and working for a general contractor and all that, just, you know, just to be out on sites and dealing with people and that. So it's all just kind of morphed. I've done a little bit of everything.
It builds up who you are. You know, I mean, you know, even the story about, you know, growing up on a farm. I mean, when I grew up in Pottstown, it was basically before the bypass was built in the Philadelphia. It was, you were out there and, you know, green rolling hills, and we had stables and we had horses, and I'd have to go in and clean the barns. And, you know, you know, my family, they had a work ethic. You know, they were in the military, and my grandfather was a combat engineer, and he rebuilt all the bridges in WW2. He was underneath Patton. And so we had a pretty strict, you know, regiment, you know, sit down dinners, you know, prayer, you don't finish your meal, you ask to be, you know. And I went to prep school, same thing, you know, study hall every night, school classes on Saturday, you know, basically military school without the, you know, the camos. And, but I look back at all those things and try to install them in my son. And he actually did pick up some things from me, you know, because he's done great to where he was at. But, you know, those little high school years, you're looking at your son, you're like, you know, I kept telling him, look, 20 years from now, you're going to look back and say, I was very hard on you, but I did it for a reason, because I didn't get thick skin because I didn't have a choice. When they said, hey, you got to go work in the scrapyard, I didn't have a choice. You got to go work as a first mate and clean bait and go out and, you know, deal with the customers and stuff on the boat. And so, you know, my work ethic, I look back at all the little different things that I did. It molded me to who I was. So you as an athlete, being on the line, it's a team oriented thing. Without the line, you know, you can't score points. You know, that's just the reality of it. You're a crucial, integral part. So all of those things. And working and getting your degree over a 10-year degree gig, that's an awesome achievement. So congratulations. So
Thank you.
but all those things, you know, that makes you who you are. So you go to Charleston, you hook up with KCon, and you're kind of heavy in federal. Am I correct? I mean, that's what, you know.
Well, when I started here 15 years ago, and up until about 3 years ago, we were 95% federal government. All entities, you name it, a lot of National Guard work, Army, some Corps of Engineers stuff, it just Fish and Wildlife, Bureau of Land Management, anything federal we were part of. Lately, in the last few years, especially with our new administration, there's not as much government money. They're doing not as much construction. So we've morphed into more of a commercial construction company. We still do both. We still pursue both, and the government especially is a cyclical thing. So it'll turn around. Not a whole lot of government construction going on now, but 2-3 years from now, I'm confident that it'll be back. You know, might be a new administration, maybe not, but the money always seems to come back. So
listen, the federal government is the largest contractor in the world. They got 900,000 buildings, let alone all everything else that they have. So, and it's a process. They've been building for 200 years. So they're set in stone in the way that, you know, my wife is a federal contractor, and she's SAM registered, and, you know, just learning the process and of how to do things, and, you know, just even getting registered, that's you know, with SAM, that in itself is just you know, an ordeal in itself. But once you do learn the process, you know, it is cyclical. I mean, things go on, and then depending on what the administration is, and you know, but they've got a lot of property, you know, and they want things done, and you know, it's different than commercial, you know, but it's still nuts and bolts. They just have they're just a little, you know, I think it's much easier dealing with a you know, a cannabis brand or an apparel company or a hotel than it is with the government. But in essence, they're still putting up drywall, flooring, carpet, air compressors, you know, whatever it might be. And it's all about process. But deadlines are deadlines. If your bid's not in by 2 p.m., you're not getting in. It's just the reality of it. So you got to be on top of your game.
Yeah, I think that's where KCon has the advantage in commercial construction right now over some other GCs, because we're used to that process. We're used to everything regimented, government-wise, superintendent on site at all times, insurance, you know, all the paperwork. We're used to doing that. We have people that have been here 15 years just pushing those papers. So when you get into a commercial construction, it's a lot easier in a lot of ways. The permitting and all that stuff you don't have to do with government, but other than that, commercial construction is really more free flowing and not as rigid, and in a lot of ways a lot easier.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, let's talk about you know, KCon's probably rolling right along in you know, the end of 2019, the beginning of 2020, like everybody else, you know, low unemployment, everybody's working, things are going great, cranes all over the place. I don't care where you are. I know that they've renovated a bunch of hotels on the beach there in Charleston, and you know, just because some of the hotel brands, and I know that property down there. And then, you know, the stupid bug shows up here, and March Madness gets canceled, and everything gets shut down, and you kind of have to refigure how you're gonna, you know, run your company. And now here 2 years later, finally, you know, mandates and this and stuff is all getting down. So talk about, you know, that kind of process from, you know, the beginning of March of 2020 until where we are today, of, you know, how your company dealt with that transition. And
yeah, well, dealing with it then, and we're still dealing with it today.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Where we're at now with the supply chain issues and all the downstream, it's harder to get materials now than ever. It's harder to get labor now than ever, and that's all as a result of, you know, the beginning of the pandemic. personally here at KCon, we still came to the office every day. We didn't have a whole lot of work from home. People did get COVID, and they stayed home and they worked remotely. And you know, I'd say most of the we're around 20 here in the office, and I'd say more than half of them got COVID at some point or another. So we allowed them to work from home, and and we made that work. But they came right back to the office as soon as they were healthy again. The bigger problem is all the people, all our vendors and subcontractors and our customers, they were remote. And then, a lot of times in different time zones, and all the, the procedure that goes along with, keeping all that straight, and keeping people accountable is really difficult. So I think we're over the hump with that. I think Zoom has gotten so much better. MS Teams, we use 4 or 5 different formats now, none of which I knew anything about 2 years ago.
Oh yeah, and it's not going away. It's not going away.
No, it's not. And I think there's a certain amount of productivity lost and efficiency lost when your customers or your vendors are working remotely. And things just don't happen as quickly as they used to. Our schedules, 4-month projects are now 6-month projects, and 6 months or 9 months. And that's just a reality. We need to forget about the way things used to be. I find myself, I'm an older guy. I find myself, I'm the curmudgeon going, well, it didn't used to be this way. We used to, order steel and get it in 8 weeks. Well, those times are gone, and maybe forever, due to the pandemic, or grossly to the pandemic. Metal buildings we're predominantly a metal building supply. We have 2 different metal buildings that we supply and erect, and most of our projects are based on metal buildings. Those are out to 8 months. They used to be 8 to 10 weeks. It takes 8 months to get a building now. So it's just changed everything. We're rolling with the punches. Trying to sell something that now costs twice as much and takes twice as long is not an easy task. But I think people understand and customers understand. And, when you build that relationship with people, and that's kind of, that's still what it's all about. Whether you're on Zoom or, conference calls, you never even meet the guy in person. It's still about building that relationship. So, that's what we concentrate on. And throughout the pandemic, it was just like, how do we still, without getting on a plane and going to see someone, how do we still have that relationship? So you try to find other ways. It's difficult, but we're all in the same boat.
Oh yeah, Zoom, it was a catalyst, but now it's a tool. And you can be in so many places where it used to take weeks to do it. Now you can do it all in a day. And but there's nothing like feeling, that new marble or accordion surface, or going out and, the guy can maybe do a FaceTime with you and walk around and look at the project. But there's nothing like being there, on the site to see things and see how things are going. It's great to have a camera. So I totally get that. And it's just technology that's here that is an asset. It can cut down on your travel when you might have to be in 2 places at once. You can get that done, but also that it is immediate. You can record it and go back if you forgot something about. Just like we're recording this, I'll go back and look at it but there's definitely even myself. I was a face-to-face guy, print, and then I morphed into digital. Will I go back to printing the magazine? Probably not. But would I want to bring back some of my, face-to-face events now that things are kind of settling down? There's still parts of the country I probably can't go that I used to go to. But South Carolina is like Georgia. We were open, all through the pandemic, so it really didn't matter if you were an essential or not. We were open. And, of course, the protocols had to be in there, on site with the cleansing stations and, all that kind of stuff. But they weren't as stringent as some of the other states, in the country. And in general, the I think, you know, a lot of people learned about their business, you know, whether it was good or bad, that that even though the hindrance with, you know, like you said, steel, being that it's a, you know, there's a delayed factor there now, that you learned how to do other stuff better. So, you know, it's kind of a, it almost is a wash. Maybe not equal, but like you said, you're still getting those projects done, and the people that you're building for, they realize that too. Um, one of the most amazing thing I think about the pandemic was if you didn't have a Gmail or a cell phone number for your clients in the beginning, I don't even know how people got in touch with them, you know, because they didn't want to pick up the phone and go, hey, you know that project? It's going to be delayed 6 months, or yeah, you know, my payment plan of 30, 60 days, that's now going to be 1/120, you know, they didn't want to pick up the phone. And if you emailed them, just like myself, my issue, I think my last March, April, I was fighting with the post office in 2020 going, I don't want to print all these copies because half the offices I'm going to mail them to are closed, or people are furloughed. They're not going to get them. They're going to go in the trash. And and all these different things that people were thinking about, you know, am I liable? What's the legality? All of these things. And now you have to put all that stuff in the contracts. And, you know, whether you're a publisher or you're, you know, a metal building guy, it's, you know, but I think a lot of people learned how to fine tune their businesses as business owners or, you know, management, and figure out the best way to use technology, as well as keep the momentum going in with your company, as well as, you know, maintaining that relationship, you know, with your, you know, with your clients, you know, even though you didn't have that interaction. But I think that's, you know, it's going to come back. But even them, they know now that they don't need to travel as much as they did, you know, that they can get stuff done on technology, and they're going to pick and choose where they're going to do those, you know, those in-person gigs. I don't think it'll come back the way it was. I just read this thing. I was going to write my column about my next issue. It's going to post here in a day or two, about people working at home and the pros and cons. The pros are that they don't have to burn gas. They don't have to go through the rigmarole of traffic. They can have more of a balanced life versus, you know, work 9 to 5, go through rush hour. Like here in Atlanta, it's brutal in the morning, brutal in the afternoon. You get home, you eat, your day's over. If you have kids, you don't get to spend any time with them. You know, the flip side of that is, you know, does ownership, well, if you don't want to come back to the office, I'm going to go overseas and hire someone for, you know, 30 or 40% less than what I'm paying you, and they're going to put in 60 or 70 hours, you know what I mean? But will you get the quality of, you know, thing? And all the real estate that's been built, they could turn into housing, or it could be renovated into other things, and they don't have to build, they just have to renovate it. So it was a really interesting article. But the biggest thing was, these people, you know, the workers, they have no problem going to a football game or a concert or whatever, but they don't want to go back to the office, you know?
Yeah,
I'm not
don't
going back
feel
to the
safe.
office, man. No, I'm at home. I'm loving this. Now, if you're a police officer, or if you're fireman, or, you know, construction PM or superintendent, you don't have a choice. You got to go out, you know. But it was a really interesting article, and I was trying to write my column on it, and so my family, they had a flood in their house. And they're out of Dayton. They're in the southwest of Ohio. They were retailers for 50 years in the jewelry business. Anyway, so stepdad sold a business. So they're basically snowbirds. They had a house in Vail, too old to ski, so they got a place in Cave Creek, just north of Phoenix. So they do about 6 months. They do summer and fall in Ohio, and then they go December to May out in Phoenix. So this past year, or the year before, they left, and they have a guy that comes out and looks at the house every 2 weeks, flushes the toilets, you know, keeps the house basically running. So when they come in, the house is basically ready to go. Anyway, when they locked the house up, the water line on the refrigerator broke, and it was running for like almost 2 weeks. So when the guy came over to open the door and flush the toilets, he couldn't get the door open. This is a big freaking wood door, and it was swollen shut. They had to pry the son of a gun up. And when they opened it, like 2 feet of water came out. The freaking water was up. The whole house had to get gutted. I mean, hundreds of thousands of dollars a day. I mean, it was a shell after they did the demo. then my mom's like, oh, cool. It's this 15, 16-year-old house. Now I can rent it, upgrade it. She can't get products. And so she's just going out. She just had her car shipped out. They're going out there now to finish the house. They're going to spend a couple months out, and they got a wedding they're going to be back in Ohio for in May. But she ordered some of this stuff. She can't get it. And so, she's living the same thing you are, with products and stuff. So I wrote my column about sensors. That's what I said. I said, look, when they rebuilt the house and the interior, when the drywall was all gone, they put these sensors in. So in case there was ever another leak, they could get notified on their phone, and they could, turn the water off, because water is the silent killer. It just is. Mm-hmm. It's not like, a fire, you got sprinklers, you can see it, you can smell it, water, unless you see the leak, it could go on and on forever, and it gets expensive, because especially if you're in a multi-story building, and the leak happens on the top, gravity, it's all going down, and it just mangles everything. And that's what happened here. I mean, that little crack had to be tiny. A water line in a refrigerator is a tiny little thing, but it went running 24/7 for 14 days. Oh my God. It was the pictures were you wouldn't believe what that water did. So
we're going to solve that with more technology, huh?
Well, it was interesting because I had a guy on my podcast from Israel, and that's what he does. He sells these sensors. And I had just done the podcast, and they called me like the next day, and they said, you're not going to believe it. We had a flood at the house. I'm like, what are you talking about? Oh, the water line. I'm like, oh my God, I just had this guy on from Israel, and that's what he does. He puts sensors in here and in your building or your residential. So when you're building it, you can put these things in. So in case there is a flood or a leak, they can stop it. And before it causes, too much damage. And what he said was that down the road, a lot of the insurance companies are going to, not to get off the metal building, but we're talking about this stuff, that they're going to be underwritten, that you're going to have these sensors on there, because water is, it's just as bad as it's like it's probably worse than having a brush fire that goes through and, wreck stuff, because once drywall gets wet, your carpet gets wet, we had 2 feet, mold, everything had to be gutted.
Oh yeah.
So
I am familiar, unfortunately.
Yeah. So I lived it, and I've seen the pictures, and so talk about metal building like in the commercial sector. I've walked enough shows that I'm familiar with metal capabilities. I get all the metal magazines, and metal buildings are a really cool gig, because there's an affordability factor. They're fairly not as complex from a building standpoint, and they insulate really well. They're energy efficient, depending on how complex they are. And talk about the diversification with your product line. Maybe looking at like a craft brew place or a retailer that's thinking about doing a freestanding store or a restaurateur, and not thinking about putting up sticks instead of doing metal building.
Well, I guess some of the advantages of a pre-engineered metal building is that it's pre-engineered. So it's very simple. We have the software right here in-house. In an hour, I could have a price for the metal building and a design. Conventional structural steel building takes much more engineering. It's much more costly, and it takes longer to erect. The pre-engineered metal building is the software has been refined over the years. It doesn't matter which pre-engineered metal building you buy. It's been refined as such that every column, every frame, everything is the minimal size necessary to carry the load. Structural steel buildings aren't like that. Every engineer puts his thumbprint on it, and he picks a size and he picks whatever. Mm-hmm. So less steel, quicker erection, quicker design time. It's just quicker overall. Now, with the economy and the supply chain, what we've been talking about, what isn't quicker is how long it takes to get the steel, but it still takes just as long for a structural steel building. So that's always been the advantage. The disadvantages used to be the skin of the building was a metal panel. It was it looked like a tin can. Mm-hmm. Recently, that's changed. They have insulated panels. They have Kingspan is a panel maker that makes different designs. They've modernized the skins on pre-engineered metal buildings over the years. I invite anyone to just bring up a website, put in, pre-engineered metal buildings, and you're going to see a bunch of tin cans. But if you dig a little deeper, you're going to see some really nice things. And there's a lot of buildings out there you wouldn't know that are pre-engineered metal buildings because they don't look like what they used to.
Yeah, I'm a judge for the Modular Building Institute every year, and that's kind of like the same kind of concept as pre-engineered, metal buildings, and they do all different categories, government, retail, restaurant, healthcare, schools. I don't know. I probably went through, I think, 75 projects that I had to judge on different, architectural, time delivery, and some of the projects are beautiful. You wouldn't know that that's a modular, unit that's being built. So for those of you out there in commercial construction coffee talk land, if you haven't looked at a metal building, it's not your daddy's building. Okay, it's changed. And if you're looking for a new look, let me tell you, like you can pull them up, and there might be 100 pages on metal buildings. If you dive deep in the second, third, or fourth pages on Google, if you did it that way, you're going to find some really cool stuff, and you would never know that it's a pre-engineered metal building. You think it's could be concrete or whatever, but there's some really cool stuff that's going on. And cannabis, okay, once it gets legalized, and which it will be eventually in all the states, all these growth facilities, they're all using metal buildings, or a lot of them are. You tell me. I mean,
we're looking at several right now. We're putting some budgetary numbers together for several right now.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the craft brew places that we have a craft brew section in our magazine. So a lot of these craft brewers, they're using metal buildings.
Most everyone is a metal building.
Yeah, yes. Or it's a renovated old brick building that they that they've done. I've got a guy. It was an old office building in New York. He's going to be my cover, and it's an iconic, been there for hundreds of years, and they renovated, I think it's 3 or 4 stories, and they put the distillery, and they got the bar, and anyway, it was a really cool project. But but that's the rarity. Most of the craft brews are metal, that we see. And but if you're a retailer out there, or a hotelier, and you're looking for a new look, listen, this is why we had Dan on and KCon, because they're specialists, in this side of things, and it's worth exploring for sure. And everything's about the budget.
For a shameless plug, if you want to see different kinds of metal buildings, you can go to kconinc.com, and we've done several different types of metal buildings that don't necessarily look that way.
Yeah. So what's a cool project? One of your coolest projects that you've done over like the last year?
Well, right now we're just starting. We'll be breaking ground next month. We're in design, and I was out there last week to Amarillo, Texas. We have a job for the Department of Energy, and it is a nuclear weapons manufacturing facility.
Oh, wow.
So pretty intense access required, and pretty
intense.
I was
going to say you had to get security clearance, I'm sure.
Yeah, crazy security. There's actually 2 gates at the facility. We're inside the first gate, which is really difficult. Luckily, we're not inside the second gate, because that's even a higher security standard and to find plumbers and electricians and whatever that can qualify to get by that second gate is not easy. So, but we're doing that project. There's a lot of equipment, CNC, 3D printers, all that kind of thing. So it's a great opportunity to get in with a company like, well, the Department of Energy, but the company's Pantex. It's a great opportunity for us, and it could easily lead to a lot more work. But it was great going to Amarillo. I was not used to that kind of bitter cold. I haven't been in that weather in a while.
Sorry about that.
So
I know.
Great people out there, friendly. They're going to be great to work with.
It's funny you said nuclear. I have a new advertiser in this next issue. It's the Canadian Nuclear Laboratory, and they're running a spread. I think I put them on the inside front cover coming up. and they were looking for construction or contractors. And um, I asked the lady, I go, listen, you're with the Canadian government, the nuclear division. What are you looking at my magazine? Can I ask you how you found me? He goes, oh, there's a professor up here that said you know, what we need, we can find in your magazine. So I was like, wow, you know, it's amazing, you know, but you never know where your next sale is going to come from. And,
Mhm.
you know, if you're an expert and, you know, there you are, you're working on this nuclear weapons plant, you know, that's awesome. You know, and I come from the military, so I want to learn. I want to do all that stuff. You know, my kid be like, "Oh, wow, nuclear weapons, that'd be awesome." So,
Well, it's taken KCon since we've been in business since '85, and we have now been in 54 states and territories doing business, doing buildings of some sort. They just added a new territory, so we've got one territory we haven't worked in, but it's been great. Over the years, I have maybe 7 states left that I haven't been to. All of those for KCon, looking at jobs, and I really enjoy that part of it. Seeing different places in the country and really meeting different people across the country. They're so different.
oh yeah.
But ultimately, when it comes to doing the job, our processes and procedures are in place. It doesn't matter where we're at. We can do work anywhere.
So, if you were going to leave one positive thought or phrase with our commercial construction coffee talk listeners out there, what would it be as we go through the rest of 2022?
Well, I think I think construction is a difficult business right now, but you also have to relate to your customers because their businesses are just as difficult. No matter what they're making, producing, doing, they're having trouble getting supplies, and they're having trouble. We're all in this together kind of attitude is really true. So when you're building those relationships out there, you just gotta, you know, you've got to find common ground of, hey, we're all, you know, I'm going to do my best to do a good job for you, but I've got these issues that are, you know, these supply issues. I got these, you know, whatever, you know, now with the Ukraine and all that, that's going to have its own bunch of issues that go along with it economically and inflation. And, you know, get that common ground with your customer, you know, like, hey, I get it. Tell me how it's affecting you as well. And, you know, build that team together.
I think the most important thing, you know, when you've got a burning desire, you know, pick up the phone and make a phone call. Don't send an email. All right. Because we get enough emails as it is say, this is the best tool right here. Use the phone and have a conversation on all the important issues. Leave the emails for all the basic stuff. And not only will your vendor or your client or even the, you know, the end user that you're working with, they'll appreciate that because it is, even though you're not seeing face to face, you're having that interaction, not on Zoom. You know, the phone this is still a very, very viable tool. And just give them a call because you can read an email 1,000 different ways. And just like you can look at a picture, you know, I'm a publisher, you can look at a book, 1,000 different stories. So I just say, look, 95% email, that 5% that's really important, pick up the phone. Just make the phone call, and you'll be amazed at how much clearer, and you'll on both sides will appreciate it. So I'm right there with you. Be flexible.
Yeah. I tell my guys that every day. You know, sometimes it's not an email kind of conversation. It's a face to face. Well, it's a, you know, pick up the phone, send the email later, memorialize your conversation, but by all means,
follow up. Yeah, that's what it's for. Absolutely.
Especially the bad emails. You know, hey, call someone. I'm about to send you an email that's going to look pretty bad.
Yeah.
You know, so
heads up, 10-4, it's coming.
Something's not going well on your end. I'm about to tell you. So that's important. You know, I tell my guys that all the
time. I know you already gave your contact info, but if someone wanted to, you know, contact you and talk about metal buildings or pick your brains, and, you know, since you're the expert in that side of things, I know you threw your website out there, but, you know, give them your contact and what's the best way to reach you?
Best way to reach KCon is, I would say through the website, but I did 1-800-394-5266. I had to look at my card there because I'm used to giving out my cell phone.
Yeah, there you go.
But that's our main switchboard. We have a receptionist that answers the phone and directs you to who.
And throw your website out there again.
It's KCon Inc. KCONINC.com.
Okay, out of Charleston, South Carolina.
That's
if any
right.
if any of you listeners out there want to get in touch with me, you can get me at David C, like Cat David C at ccr-mag.com. If you're not a subscriber, my website was supposed to be up about 3 weeks ago, but I'm still playing with it. So hopefully it'll be up next week. Anyway, up on the toolbar, there's even on the old site, where the new site, it'll say subscribe. We'd love to have you. We got about 100, send the magazine out to 125,000 people. So we'd love to have you. Still have time. I have got my 5th annual awards coming up, project profile. So if you have any cool projects, my submittal form's right on there on the homepage. It says CCR project profile. It's a little square little button there at the top of the homepage. You have till probably the middle of next week to get your submittals in. And all different categories, new or renovation projects, retail, restaurant, hospitality, cannabis, federal, office. We look at them all. So in any event, and we judge them, and then we do the winners, and I have an honorable mention list as well. And we look at everything. So if you have any, and even if it's a personnel announcement or a charity golf tournament or anything like that, send it to me. We love posting stuff. We have about over 2 to 2.5 million people hit our website every month. So any kind of content, give it to me. It's like, and I know some of you have seen this before. If you don't buy a ticket, you can't win the lottery. If you don't send me something, I can't put it in the magazine or social media or get it out there. But we love looking at everything. So send it to us. And I'll send you the link back. You can share, and it's a win-win. So Dan, you know what? My kid's bugging me. I got to make it to Charleston, and I'll probably end up buying property down there if he stays there at Boeing. But you know, I'm definitely going to look you up. And you know, over the last couple of weeks, I like watching Guy Fieri's Diners, Dives, and whatever. Anyway, over the last couple episodes, there was this taco joint that looked awesome, and then there was this barbecue place. The food looks awesome. So
it is. You could eat at a different restaurant for a whole year every day, and you're not going to get them all here. There's just so much good food. And
oh yeah, yeah. There was a guy that was doing these biscuits, and you know, I forget what it was called, but so my wife, she's texting my son, hey, check this one out. It's right out by the airport, you know, blah blah blah. And anyway, so we'll meet in person, and no fist pumps. I'm shaking your hand, and
right.
And you know, we'll get together because you know, he's bugging me, and we'll probably buy some property down there anyway. So thank you so much for finding the time, you know, after a busy day as it was. And we want you to say goodbye from Charleston, South Carolina, the best kept secret in the South.
Okay, David, I appreciate everything. I appreciate the opportunity to let you know about KCon. And when you get to town, look me up by all means. If you,
oh no, I'm gonna give you a heads
it.
up too. I'm gonna Ron too, and you know, and I'm gonna come in there and check out the office. I want to meet everybody there at KCon. So,
and I can hook you up with breweries, restaurants, any kind of fun, golf, whatever you need.
Yeah, I want to be out in the water, to be honest with you, man. So
we got that too.
Yeah, I know. So I'm going to sign off from Sugar Hill, just below the Beaufort Dam in Lake Lanier, just north of about 25 miles north of downtown Atlanta. Everybody have a great rest of the week. Enjoy the nice weather. If you're still maybe up north or, you know, in the Midwest and, you know, Cleveland or, you know, Wisconsin, I know they're still chilling up there, but the warm weather's coming. So bear with it. Old Man Winter's going to, you know, take the hiatus, and spring's going to come in, and, you know, enjoy I love the change in the seasons. Before all the humidity comes in. So with that said, I'm going to sign off. Dan, thank you again. And all you out there in commercial construction coffee talk land, we will see you next time on another episode. And best of success in the rest of 2022. Dan, thanks. And we will see you all again. All right. Talk to you soon.
Thank you.